Hello everyone, welcome to today's The Hindu News Analysis. The delay in today's video has been due to the electricity outage in the area today. Sorry for the delay. Coming to today's video analysis, we'll be discussing about 7 important news articles in the Hindu newspaper today. Coming to the editorial, for farms and farmers, income support serves a purpose, but the farm sector needs a lot more. So, the editorial is regarding the recent announcement by the Chhattisgarh government to give direct income support to the farmers. The editorial says that apart from this direct income support, there are many other measures which are very much necessary to revive the agriculture sector. Coming to the editorial, the Rajiv Gandhi Kisan Nyaya Yojana. So this is launched by the Chhattisgarh government last week. It aims to supplement the income of the state's 18 lakh rice, maize and sugarcane farmers by rupees 10,000 to rupees 13,000 per acre through direct cash transfers. So this is apart from the center's PM Kisan scheme. So PM Kisan scheme, it provides rupees 6,000 to farm families, right, who are owning less than 5 acres of the land. So apart from PM Kisan, states like Telangana, Odisha and Andhra Pradesh also have similar cash transfer programs for farmers. So here you have to distinguish between direct transfers and indirect transfer, indirect subsidies. Direct subsidy is like giving directly cash to the farmers, whereas indirect subsidy comes into picture when the government provides subsidy in the farm inputs like fertilizers, irrigation, etc. Right? So here you have to distinguish between direct subsidies and indirect subsidies, and this income transfers come under direct subsidy, right? Also, the minimum support price regime, which works in combination with the PDS, which is already there, right? Also, the center says it fixes MSPs at 1.5 times the cost of production of farmers, but this calculation is not free of controversy. So here you have to study about the determination of the MSP, right? MSP is the minimum support price at which the government agrees to buy the farm produce from the farm products from the farmers, right? So government says that we'll be procuring rice at this much price, right, per kg. So this is called MSP, but there are some issues which are related to determination of the price related to MSP. The government has said that they will provide 1.5% of the cost of production, right? So if the cost of production is 100%, 100 rupees, then the government is said that they will provide 150 rupees for the farm produce. But there is an issue here, how this cost price is determined, how this cost of production is determined, what all factors are included here, whether the cost of the fertilizers, the cost of the land, the cost of the human labor. So there are many factors which are responsible for production of an agriculture produce, right? So which among these factors will be included in this cost of production? There is a confusion here, and that is a controversy as of now. So there are some formulas related to it, AL plus some one equation and all is here. So go through those equations which are related to determination of the MSP. Okay, so that you have to do it as a homework. So these income support schemes target landowners and bypass tenants and laborers. Okay, so this is another issue with this direct income support. You have already seen that. See, like in the beginning, you have seen that PM Kisan scheme is for farmers who are having less than 5 acres of land. So you can see that land becomes an issue here. Like the money is given to farmers who are owning the land, but what about the people who doesn't own land? For example, tenants are here. Tenants are there. Tenants are people like they are farmers who farm on the land of others. The ownership doesn't belong to the tenants, right? So there will be a contract, and only for that contract period the farmers will be doing agriculture in that farmland. So what about them? What about the laborers who are working in the farmlands? So these people who doesn't have the land ownership, they are also not supported under this. Also, we can bring another dimension here. In India, women own only about 11 to 12% of the agricultural land, but whereas 60% of the agricultural workforce are women. So there is a big disparity here. So women are being under a negative thing here, right? Because 60% of the workers are women, but only 11% of the land rights belong to them. That means that these schemes won't be helpful for women, right? So that is another dimension you can mention here. Also, there are another other list of pre-existing morbidities in the agriculture sector. They are, one is The long, including messy land records, unscientific and unsustainable crop patterns, market linkages that the farmers vulnerable to exploitation by officials and middlemen, inadequate irrigation, adoption of technology, conflict with wildlife, and changing weather and climate patterns. So agriculture is faced by a lot of issues. So here you can mention, take a note of the challenges faced by the agriculture sector. So under challenges, you'll be dividing it into various dimensions. One is the climate change, the natural factors. Natural factors include the climate change, the suitability of the crop in the area. So other factors you can mention about market linkages, the rise of perishables, etc. So you will be making a note of the challenges which are faced by the agriculture sector. So for now on, for now, as a short-term measure, the center must announce MSPs for the current season at the earliest, because as the announcement get late, there will be more uncertainty in the farm sector, right? Also, the creation of the buoyant agriculture sector will take much more than this direct income transfers, right? And those efforts must be made on a war footing. So the article is telling that apart from income support measures, a lot of things should be changed in the agriculture sector. Now, coming to the second news, the High Court has said to seal the LG polymer plant. As we all know, there has been styrene leak in the LG polymer plant of Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh, and many people have died, and even thousands were hospitalized. Right. So the Andhra Pradesh High Court has directed that the LG polymer plant in Visakhapatnam be sealed, and no one, including the company directors, be allowed to enter its premises. However, the court permitted the committees formed by the National Green Tribunal and the central and state governments to probe the incident. Also, the company assets, both movable and immovable, should not be shifted without the consent. The court further directed that the surrendered passport of the company directors should not be released, and they be not allowed to leave the country without its permission. So this is to avoid any situation like which happened in the Bhopal gas tragedy, right? So after that, the officials of the company were able to escape from the country, and we were not able to get them back, right? They escaped to USA, and so the owner of the LG, I mean the Bhopal gas leak company, that is Union Carbide, they were allowed, they escaped the country, right? So to avoid such situation, the passports are being taken from them. Also, it's ought to know whether the company applied for permission to restart during lockdown. So the court is seeing whether they have taken all the clearances. Besides, the court called for an explanation for the lack of a valid environmental clearance from the Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, existence of hospital, education institutions, railway stations, airport, etc. So there are some regulations for starting of a company like this dealing with chemicals according to the manufacture, storage and import of hazardous chemicals rules of 1989. But there are some lack of clearances which are being found out due of this LG polymer plant. Okay, all those things are being probed by the High Court as of now. Now, coming to the next main article, the need for a million work sites now. So this becomes under GS3. The article is by Gene Trees, and it deals with how the migrant workers should be accommodated and given more work at this time, especially through the program of Narega, right? So coming to the article, a survey by Asim Premji University says that 74% of the respondents were consuming less food today than before the lockdown. Another survey conducted by Farzana Afridi and her colleagues in low-income neighborhoods of Delhi found that 80% of the respondents had not earned any income during the lockdown, and 90% reported financial stress, and about half were too anxious to sleep at night. So the survey was conducted among the working class of the population, like mostly the most vulnerable sections of the population. So this statistics can be noted down to reproduce it in the mains answer writing. Now, there have been some support from the PDS. Thankfully, the PDS is preventing the worst. The same survey shows that an overwhelming majority of the poor households, that is 86% of the APU survey people, they are currently receiving food rations. Right. So this is a very good move. The doubling of the food rations for 3 months was a good move on the part of the central government. There is every reason to extend it beyond the end of June. So since the central government has agreed for free food rations for 3 months, 86% of the people, the people under the survey, they were able to get the food rations, right? So that is at least that is some success in a sea of failures, right? So the PDS, however, leaves out 500 million people. This is the issue with PDS, right? Because for to get benefits from the PDS, actually your name should be in the ration card, and this ration card is actually given by states, right? So what about the interstate migrants? So a person who is working as a migrant laborer in another state, he cannot avail the benefits of the PDS because his ration card is from his home state, right? So this is why PDS actually leaves out 500 million people, including many who lives in poverty. Also, to cope up with the crisis, the poor households urgently need a chance to earn cash beyond small mercies. Unconditional cash transfers are not easy for this purpose because there is no simple way of identifying those in need, and covering everyone would amount to spreading the money very thin. See, we can't give money to everyone, right? Because yeah, with a population of 130 crore, if we give money to everyone, something like universal basic transfer income and all, if we give money to anyone, it will be like everyone will get very little for themselves, and even the government will be spending a lot from the exchequer, and still everyone will be getting very less income. So this is not a good idea, right? So what can be the alternative here? The alternative is India's National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, that is NAREGA. It offers an obvious alternative, at least for rural areas, for employment on demand at basic wages. And even the Narega work, it has unprecedented demand. The demand for Narega work is much stronger than ever. This is despite the fact that wages are still low, payments are still far from timely and reliable. What has changed is that more workers don't have any other alternative as of now, right? Most of the workers doesn't have any alternative as of now. So the demand for Narega has been raised, even though there are issues with Narega payments and all. Also, the large scale opening of a Narega works on a proactive basis. Every village needs at least one major work site where a good number of people can work at short notice. So this is the way forward. Okay. Ideally, workers should be allowed to enroll at the work site itself. That is, there should not be any prerequisite that you have to register in this something like in this register or something. That kind of prerequisites that should not be there. The workers who are coming to the workplace, they should be enrolled directly at the workplace itself, right? So that it will be easy for the workers to get work. Also, ideally, a further large scale employment generation should continue throughout the monsoon, the hardest period of the year for the poor people in the large parts of rural India. Averting a humanitarian crisis in the next few months calls for a veritable explosion of Manrega work. So here the author is telling that a lot of Manrega work should happen, at least in every village. In every village, at least one work site should be there. So that is the way forward, which is told by this author. Much of the and even much can be done to facilitate this. So apart from creation of work, some other things also should be done. One is the expanding list of permissible work. So as of now, there are a list of work which are permissible under Manrega. So that list should be expanded to include more work, right? Also, hiring more grams rozgar sevaks, employment assistants. So these employment assistants will be helping the uh, rural people to get the employment, right? Also, simplifying the implementation process, mobilizing para teachers to work for application drive to get more people into the workforce, right? And so on. And of course, top down orders to expand the scale of the works could work wonders. That is, the governments, the central governments and all, should proactively encourage Manrega works. Also, it is also worth considering a return to cash payments of Narega wages, at least as an option for duration of the crisis. We all know that now the country is moving towards digital payments, but the author is telling that at least for time being, the cash-based payment should be considered again. Why? Because this will help ensure timely and reliable payment of wages. That is one thing. That is, after the work, cash will be paid at the work site itself. That will ensure that the cash will be there, right? Instead of any digital transfer delay and all, right? Also, it will also spare workers from the ordeal of extracting their wages from overcrowded banks or business correspondents. As of now, like for example, if DBT and all is there, the money will come to the bank account, right? So people have to go to the nearest ATM or bank and all to withdraw the money. So this is not as easy as we think. Like in urban areas and all, this will be an easy task. But coming to rural areas, the banking branch might be very far away, all this stuff, all these difficulties are there in the rural areas, right? So that's why it is worthwhile to consider shifting to cash payments itself. Further, cash payment of wages would act as a tremendous incentive for rural workers to demand narega work. So that is why the author is telling that to move towards cash payments. So there are some issues with cash payment, that is true, there will be leakages and all, right? But that may be a tolerable price to pay in an emergency. So this is an emergency situation, so it's fine even if there are some leakages also and all, but ensure that the workers are getting cash. So that is more important as of now. So coming to digital payments, there is an issue of rejection rate which comes to around 4%, and there is a issue of know your customer KYC process, right? So all these are extra hurdles for the people who are less educated in the rural areas, right? To avoid all these issues, we have to return to the cash payments for time being. And coming to the budget, the funds are not an immediate concern since the NREGA budget for 2020-21 has been raised to 1 lakh crore or so. But more is likely to be required to meet the tremendous demand of the NREGA work. As of now, money is not an issue, but we should be ready for more payments also. So ensure that the funds never dry up. This happened every year during the last few years, leading to huge wage arrears. So this wage arrears should not happen. The people should be getting money immediately after the work is done, right? So the main idea is to provide work a lot. A lot of work should be provided and to pay the wages as fast as possible. So this is what the article is talking about. Okay, very good article for the mains perspective. Coming to the COVID related news, COVID-19 cases, India now in the top 10 countries in the world having the as per the number of cases. Okay, India on Sunday reported the highest single day spike so far of 7,097 COVID cases, taking the overall tally to 1,38,482, and the number of active cases stood at 76,858, out of which 57,605 people have recovered. So that is a good thing, right? The recovery rate is also increasing. The death toll crossed 4,000 with 150 new fatalities. So as of now, India was in the 11th position, and India has surpassed Iran, which has around 1,35,000 cases. India now has the 10th highest number of confirmed cases worldwide. And coming to the state-wise tally, Maharashtra reported a surge of 3,041 single cases in a single day, and it has also reached 50,000 total cases. Maharashtra has also reached 50,000 cases. Meanwhile, the Union Health Ministry said that the recovery rate in the country is 41.28%. So the recovery rate is increasing at a though a slower pace. It was 40 in the last 2 days. Now it has increased to 41%. Also, the testing capacity has been ramped up in both. As on date, around 1,50,000 tests can be conducted every. So that is a very good thing. We are able to conduct 1,50,000 tests every day. So the increase in the case is actually partially due to the increase in the testing rate also. So see, the number of cases are not the issue. Okay, even if the cases rise, it's fine, we'll be able to manage it. But if the cases rise and we didn't come to know about it, if the government doesn't come to know that the case is rising, then that is a big issue, right? So if the cases rise and the government comes to know about it, then it's fine, right? So that is the importance of testing. Testing should be increased as soon as possible to ensure that wherever the cases are coming, we will be able to identify it. So that is important of testing. Now coming to another news related to COVID case, center seeks efficacy of Ayurveda. The Union Health Ministry on Sunday saw results of COVID-19 treatment using Ayurvedic medicine. Okay, the health minister has visited a health center at Chaudhary Brahm Prakash Ayurved Charak Sansthan in Najafgarh. Okay, so here some promising result has been found. So Ayurveda has a huge potential, right? It is a traditional medicinal knowledge sourced from India, and there is huge potential in it. Its inherent strength in holistic healing and well-being is put to good use in the treatment of the patients at this center, that is the center at Najafgarh, right? He said this knowledge and experience would surely prove beneficial to people all over the world, especially in combating the battle against COVID-19. So here, the what is the specialty here? Here there had not been any casualty. So here till date, 201 patients have been admitted in this center. But also 37 people have been cured, and 100 patients have been advised home isolation. But even though 200 patients came here, no one has been died till now. So this brings promise in Ayurvedic treatment of COVID-19. Okay. Now, coming to the next article, no troops detained by China, says Indian Army. So, the Army on Sunday categorically denied reports that Indian patrol teams have been detained by Chinese troops along the line of actual control in the eastern Ladakh during the current standoff. So, as we all know, India and China are having border issues as of now in two areas, especially that is one in Ladakh and one in uh, Sikkim, right? In Ladakh, the issue is in Pangong So Lake, and coming to Sikkim, the issue is in Nakula Pass, right? So, uh, so there was a news. There were reports that uh, Indian troops, Indian soldiers were in detention in the uh, with the Chinese army, right? So, tensions between India and China along the LIC have been rising for the past month since People Liberation Army troops tried to disrupt road construction in the Ladakh sector. So, Indian Army was trying to improve the infrastructure in Indian side of the border, but as we are sure of, like Chinese won't like it, right? So that is the reason for the skirmishes. So also the skirmishes have been caused by different perceptions of the LAC. Say this LAC is a border between it's the present border between India and China. Okay, but the issue with LAC is that it is not properly demarcated. Indians have their own perceptions of LAC and Chinese have their own views on LAC. So this is the reason for the skirmishes. And this LAC came into picture after the 1962 Indo-China War. Okay, so one thing we have to notice, Aksai Chin, which is a part of India, it is a part of Ladakh, right? Aksai Chin, there is an area called Aksai Chin, which is a part of India, but it is actually on the Chinese side of the LAC. It is under the control of China. So these facts about LAC you should be knowing. Also, as we already seen, the issue have been in Sikkim and Ladakh. Uh, so the main areas of skirmish are 3 points. One is Ladakh. In Ladakh, it is Pangong So Lake, Galwan Nala, and Demchok. These two areas. And the issue in Sikkim is at Nakula Pass. Okay, so these things you have to just go through the map and just try to demarcate these areas. So, and India was trying to construct a road. The name of the road is Darbuk Shok Daulat Beg Oldi. Okay, so due to construction of this road in Indian side, the Chinese got infuriated and they started creating issues, right? So, who is this Daulat Beg Oldi? He is a Daulat Beg. He's also called as Sultan Said Khan. He's a Mongol. He was a Mongol ruler who is said to have died on the way. Who is said to have died in Ladakh after his invasion of Kashmir and all. Okay, in some century, in the old century. So it was just know that this guy is a Mongol ruler. Okay. Now, coming to the GS2 related international relations stuff, US pushing relations to the brink of a new Cold War, China. So, as we all know, the relation between US and China is getting worse day by day. The United States is pushing the relations with China to the brink of a new Cold War. China's foreign minister said on Sunday, rejecting Washington's lies over the coronavirus while saying Beijing was open to an international effort to find its source. So there were long-standing friction between the two powers. They were over trade. We know that there was a trade war which is going on between US and China. There was issues of human rights and a range of other issues have been pushed to new heights since the virus outbreak. Also, Washington's criticism has been widely seen in the United States as an attempt by Mr. Trump to divert attention from the White House on COVID-19 failures. So, first of all, Trump has completely failed to control the pandemic. He first of all he denied telling that there is no COVID-19. He said that COVID-19 then later he just it'll just go in a day. It'll just go as a miracle. Then he said that you just have to eat hydroxychloroquine a tablet, then COVID will go. Then he said that you have to inject disinfectants like Dettol and all, then COVID will go. So he has just set a range of stupidest thing in this world to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic, and he has been an utter failure in combating this pandemic. So, what is an alternative to Donald Trump as of now? Just blame someone. So, he got a target that is China, and he started blaming China, telling that it is Chinese virus, etc. All those stuffs. Okay, so it is an attempt by Trump to hide his own failures. Okay, the WHO have called on Beijing to invite the UN body to investigate the source. So, this is a good this is a good thing which has happened recently, because the WHO members on Tuesday they adopted a resolution tabled by the European Union at the UN's body's first virtual assembly to review about the international handling of the virus. So in this we'll come to know how the virus got out of control, whether it is from a laboratory source or from the source which is a wet market near Wuhan, which is told by China, or whether it is from Wuhan Institute of Virology. All these things will come to picture when the WHO led committee will probe into the matter fast, right? Also, there have been other issues between the US and China. The other one is the introduction at China's legislature on Friday of a proposal to impose a security law in Hong Kong to suppress the semi-autonomous cities. Democracy movement also has drawn condemnation from the US and the world. So China is planning to bring out a law in order to control the pro-democracy protest in the Hong Kong region. So Hong Kong is a semi-autonomous region of China, which was with the British till 1997. After 1997, the British handed over the area to China, but it is semi-autonomous. It has its own legislature and all, right? Now, due to the increasing pro-democracy protest in Hong Kong, China is trying to bring a law in its own parliament, not in the Hong Kong parliament, but in the Chinese parliament, to suppress the protest in Hong Kong. So this has been inviting international condemnation, right? So that is all about that news. And coming to other news articles which are important, one is failing to perform as a constitutional court in page 7. So this article discusses about the failure of the Supreme Court in controlling the migrant crisis. The Supreme Court has told that this is a policy related issue and the government has to do it, right? And they have just Supreme Court told we are not going to do anything about it. So this is a very bad step from the Supreme Court, right? So but various high courts have taken bold steps. For example, steps like high courts like Madras, Gujarat and all, they have been more vocal and supportive of the migrants, right? But the issue is that the Supreme Court is not involving much into it, which also we know that the fundamental rights of the migrants are being affected, right? Still the Supreme Court is not being involved in it. So that is what this article is discussing about. Coming to the second article, hardly the 1991 moment for agriculture. Here the article is talking about the recent announcement by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman regarding the three main reforms which are being brought in the agriculture sector. One is related to APMC reforms. The second is related to amendment of the essential deregulation of the Essential Commodities Act, and the third one is related to contract farming, right? So so everyone many people told that this is like the 1991 moment for agriculture. So what is this 1991 moment? It is a term to point out the economic reforms, the LPG reforms during the 1991. So many people were telling that this announcement by the finance minister is the 1991 moment for agriculture, but the article criticizes this and says that the efforts taken by the government to support the agriculture is not, it's not above average. Okay, so that is what the article is talking about. So please go through this two articles. So they are a bit critical about the government. Just take what is necessary from a UPSC perspective. You don't have to be overcritical of the government, but you have to understand the challenges, right? So just go through these two articles. So that's all for today's video. I hope you like the video. Please press the like button, subscribe to the channel and share the video with your friends. Have a great day. Thank you.